So this is Shantae in the Pirate's Curse. Any percent no out-of-bounds Pirates mode. So what we're going to do in this category is it's any percent, so we're going to be trying to beat the game as fast as possible, but there's a few stipulations. We're in Pirate mode, so usually Shantae is a Metroidvania style of game, and we're going to be getting new abilities, but in Pirate mode, we have all of our abilities right out of the gate. No out of bounds is... Basically, there's a few glitches in this game that allow you to go out of bounds and skip keys and such. We're not going to be doing any of those glitches. So going as fast as we possibly can in New Game Plus, essentially. So, as you can see, this is already a pretty fast-paced game, with the advantage of the Risky's boots, which is one of the pirate items. We're able to dash right out of the gate, as well as use this cannon and use this hat, which allows us to float. Grabbing something here, and we're going to use that guaranteed pike ball that we got from Bolo earlier in order to power through these floor tiles right here, breaking these lines and getting through here just a little bit faster. Whoops. Oh, so I should have jumped there early, but I was a little late. Coming up here, trying to get some extra money. Didn't drop, unfortunately. We're at 17 gold, and it's time for the first boss fight. The gold route is actually very particular in this, but more on that later. This is Ammo Baron. He's pretty RNG based. You want him to shoot the red cannonballs as fast as possible. But he's got a series of attacks he can do. He can either shoot cannonballs, or he can charge at us. And in the series of shooting cannonballs, he can either shoot the red cannonball first, second, or third. So obviously the most ideal thing is to just get 3 red cannonballs, but this was actually pretty good. It should be slightly faster than that. That's the first boss down. Pretty straightforward. There's also an attack that we can do there, which is charging, which is really, really slow, so it's pretty fortunate that we didn't get it. Bit of plot here. Shantae is getting in trouble for attacking Ammo Baron, even though she was defending her town. Ammo Baron apparently was the rightful owner of the town due to a deal that he made. So Shantae's in big trouble. Here we have the first appearance of Risky Boots, a long time Shantae frenemy. So most of the Shantae games involve Risky up to some kind of trouble. But in this game, you're actually going to be helping Risky. And here we're actually going to be fighting a member of her pirate crew being consumed by the dark magic. So there's actually a good ending in this game called All Dark Magic, and there's also Any Percent, where we actually kill every single one of these guys. Unfortunately, he's getting away from me. Ooh, this is a really bad fight. There we go. Ooh. That was tough. So what happens there is, if you don't kill him fast enough, he ends up charging towards you. And since I was really high in the air trying to hit him as he was charging, and facing the wrong direction so I wasn't hitting him, he ended up charging fairly flat and going to the other side of the room instead of charging closer to me. But we got the dark magic, which that's going to be the only one we get in this category. And there's 2 things that we need in order to leave this town. We need this library card in order to get a forbidden map. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to find the next map to the next island. In order to do that, we need to go to the library. So we need the library card from Scott, who's another recurring Shantae character. But you also need to save. So this is going to be the only forced save. I forgot to change my profile, so I just wasted all of that commentary. Shoot. bum, bum, bum. You know, I really need to remember to change that freaking profile. I think that was going well, though. There we go. That's the right one. The second bit of commentary is always the most awkward. So I have Rogue Link, and this is Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, 80% Pirate Mode, no out of bounds. So Pirate Mode is essentially the New Game Plus version of Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, where it's generally a Metroidvania where you're getting these new abilities over the course of the whole game, but instead we're going to have all of our powers right out of the gate. This includes a pretty wide selection of movement abilities, including dash, this extra like mid-air cannon jump, as well as this hat, which allows us to glide. So we're going to be using all of that right out of the gate to just charge through this level. We got a pike ball there, that's pretty fortunate. It's not going to be useful in this first stage. This is really unfortunate. I unfortunately got bumped there. So I lost my dash, but that was mostly on me. Oh boy, so we're gonna dash through here again. Nice. When you're dashing, you're actually invincible. If you can flip into the frame a little bit to stop your dash, but for the most part, you can't be stopped. Now, we actually have two pike balls there. We got one from Bolo in the very beginning, and we got one from the drop. So we can always use the one from Bolo here in order to break... Oh, just missed it, a little early. We can use the one from Bolo there in order to break the mines early. There you saw me trying to jump over a cutscene trigger. Unfortunately, we missed it. Let's set up for the first boss. So Ammo Baron's a pretty RNG-heavy boss. He can do two things. He can either charge, which is slow, we really don't want that, or he can start shooting cannonballs. How we damage Ammo Baron is we actually shoot the red cannonballs back at him, so that we get him into this weakened state. We have to do that twice. There's a really rare drop that you can get early on, called Monster Milk, and we'll be using a bunch of those early on, or later in the run. That allows you to do this in one cycle, technically two. So 2 cycles of damage, 1 cycle to finish him off. But that was pretty straightforward. Only 1 dash. Lost a little bit of time to losing our dash in the middle there. But not terrible. So here, plot-wise, Ammo Baron is usually a villain in these games. And Shantae's finding out that Ammo Baron legally acquired the deed for this town, so technically Shantae just attacked the mayor, which is, you know, super bad. And that's why she got the court summons. Next up is the first appearance of Risky in this game, who's a pretty common frenemy in the Shantae series. Most of the Shantae games involve you trying to stop Risky or some plot against Risky. But in this game, we're actually going to be helping her out the whole time because she's trying to save her crew that's been infused with dark magic and becoming these cackle bats. In other categories, such as all dark magic to get the best endings, we'd actually be killing 20 of these things. So that was really good. We got good positioning, and he didn't jump out of the way. So that's going to save us quite a bit of time. And now we have the lamp, which is the one item that you don't start the game with. You start with all the pirate items, but you do have to get the lamp from this cutscene. And the lamp's really useful because it brings all items closer to you. Now what we need to do next is we need to get to the library in order to find map to the next island. And in order to leave town or get into the library, we need to do two things. We need Sky's library card, which we just picked up, but we also have to save. So this is the only forced save during the run, but I will probably be saving in one or two other places just for marathon saving. So we're going to dash through this intro part. This is another big bit of RNG that kind of sets the tone of the run, so to speak, where the money is very, very important in this game, and all of the shopping trips are very, very important. And during these first couple of runs, you have the chance to get some items that really alleviate your bank account. So there's a very small chance that you can get some drops that would usually cost 40 or more, just for free. Flesh pops? So we need 3 flesh pops here. And how we get those flesh pops is we kill those snakes. Now what happened there is we killed each snake multiple times by pogoing off the ceiling, because that resets the damage. Here, because we're in pirate mode, we're able to pick up this travel brochure extra early. So first thing is we need to hand in those flesh pops so that we can get the gate key for the immediate task at hand. So that's the first thing we did down there. The second thing we did down there was grabbing the brochure, which we technically got early, but we're going to give it to Squid Baron here. And in return, he's going to give us squid oil. So we're going to actually use squid oil a little later in order to get into the second dungeon, as opposed to the first dungeon. So just to progress, we needed that gate key. And you need the oil later to progress, so since we only want to go into the sewer once, we just grab the oil while we're here. So dashing into the library, ending in that summons that we got earlier, and grabbing this hidden map.
Oh yeah.
And that is the map that we need in order to go to the next island. But now we're going to use that pike ball, which is really useful here, because that's going to allow us to kill these 3 ogres for generally $15. There's other drops that can appear as well, but the 3 sets of 5 gems is really what we're going for. Now you might be wondering, ooh, that's a drop. Unfortunately, we're dashing away from it. So you might be wondering, why did we need the pike ball in order to kill them on the second pass when we would just power through them the first time? Well, the scimitar, during a dash, does more damage the more things you hit. So since we didn't hit anything, we needed the pike balls there. Now, we returned the library card early there in order to get some 100 money from Sky. We're going to buy pirate flares and a super pike ball. So the pirate flares are used in order to return straight to the ship from anywhere. That makes some of the hunting quests and the back and forth sort of things where you're backtracking through the level. That makes it much faster because you don't have to go into the level and come all the way back out. You're able to just teleport right back to the ship. And the super pike ball is going to be used for the second boss. Now that's one of the things that we could have gotten from the scarecrow and saved a bunch of time. So we're going to kill this mermaid here, go through a secret area, and we're going to flip this switch for later. Oh no. There we go. That was super awkward, but we still made it through. Here, we need to turn on this fountain for these 2 girls on spring break. And in order to first do that, we're going to get this ham stick, which isn't really clear that you need it right now, but since we know how to get it and how to do it, we're just gonna grab it right away. Oh no. So here, we're going to be using the fact that we have these cannon abilities to go straight up the shortcut. So in 1, 2, 3. So in intentional play, you're supposed to drop down through that shortcut. but here we're just going to pin it up. Now, I paused 3 times there. We're not 100% sure why, but for some reason that skips a cutscene here. The window is super free. It's just pausing 3 times while you see that ham stink text box on the screen. And it saves about 20 seconds. It's one of the biggest single time saves in the game. Most of the major time saves in here are just a lot of little things that add up. And as a reward, we get the Petrify spell, which, since we sort of skipped the person who tells us to... Well, we skipped the person who we originally need to talk to in order to go up there in the first place, because we took the shortcut up. But once we hand him the Petrify spell, which is what he was looking for, he unfortunately turns to stone and just goes crashing through the floor. But fortunately for us, that's going to open up the next stage. Now, this next section is a little confusing. We're going to dash into this wall and go into a hidden area. And the reason why we're going through this hidden area is because we're going to pick up 2 keys and not use them. These keys are going to be used much later in the game. Probably in about 20-ish minutes. And we have 2 flesh pots. There we go. So, first thing though, the keys. The keys work absolutely anywhere. You just need to have them. So as long as you have a key, you can use it in any door. So we're going to grab those keys for a later dungeon. Now the animation skip, which fortunately I have 2 flesh pops, so I can explain it right here as well. What happens is the item pickup... Ooh, that was close. The item pickup animation is very slow. So we don't want to do that whenever we need to. So what we do is there's an undocumented feature to allow us to use an item by mashing the bumpers, or hitting both the bumpers at the same time. So what we do is we mash the bumpers to buffer the animation, and that allows us to pick it up immediately. Instead of going through the... we actually replace the animation with the item animation instead of the quicker eat food animation instead of the picking up an item animation. Each time you do that, it saves about 3 seconds. Also, little sequence break there. You notice that I used one of the keys on the door. What you're actually supposed to do is go down. But since we had the extra keys, we were able to use them. There's actually 3 keys that we need to use relatively early on. So there's actually 2 routes of this game. One gets the extra key on this stage, and one gets the extra key on the next stage. And this particular route gets it on the next stage. So this is Cyclops' plan. This is similar to the snakes, is going to involve a lot of pogoing on the ceiling. So first stage done, pretty easy, just need to wedge up there and have your sword. This one's a little more difficult. So what we need to do is get into just the right position, and then pogo. That one wasn't that great, that one wasn't that great either. There we go. Unfortunately, he's getting away, but that wasn't a terrible fight. Ideally, when he goes to the right, you're actually able to kill him before he even lands, but we couldn't quite get there. And once you beat every dungeon, you always get the map for the next island.
I did it!
So here, we're actually not going to use a Pirate Slayer because it only saves a second, and it allows us to not have to purchase that extra Pirate Slayer, or not worry about it. So here we're just going to dash back. And it's actually going to be the only time that we dash back, because it's the only time that you can dash back and not lose an incredibly large amount of time. Alright, time for the next island. This one's pretty straightforward at the start. Just going to dash through a couple screens. Gotta make sure you jump there. And you can actually dash or cannon and hover through this screen. Both move just as fast. Okay, didn't get blocked by any ghosts. And here we're actually going to use the sword, which, again, we have it early because this is pirate mode, to get a fossil, which is what we need to get into the 5th level. So we're getting it pretty early. Heading up here again. Okay, fortunately no ghosts getting in our way. Dashing through this next screen. And this is Roddy Tops. She's another recurring character in the Shantae series that usually has some kind of mini-game or race attached to her. And in this case, she's been bitten by a spider. So we have to go through the Run Run Roddy Top section in order to carry her all the way through the forest. Now this is a very interesting section. Everything becomes a one-hit kill, but you respawn at the start of the room. So this can be a very risky section, and it's kind of tough to go fast. Here, we don't stop for this tongue, and there's a small chance that he can catch you. Not getting any tongue skips here either. Hopefully we can get at least one. There we go. So there's a, I don't think it's pixel perfect, but there's a fairly low pixel window that you can just slide along the side of the wall and just skip those tongues. I don't know if I got fast enough. Okay, we're good. These spikes are just as dangerous as they look. And again, everything's an instant kill here, so if we get touched by anything, we go to the start of the room. So pretty easy to make a small mistake and lose time here. These couple of rooms are mostly just waiting for the cycles. So not too crazy. One more tongue skip coming up. Nice. Now these tombstones are going to see me jumping over a lot of tombstones, which may or may not move. Generally speaking, you want to play it pretty safe, and just assume that they're always going to move, but when and if they start moving is actually random. But which tombstones can move isn't random, so you can kind of account for that. And just plan to avoid them. Next up is these little kissy robots. As soon as you get into their line of sight, they charge you until they pop. It's pretty stressful. They run fairly fast, but they're not too bad. You can outrun them. So as long as you're not doing anything crazy, it's not too bad. There we jumped a little bit to the left in order to trigger it. And here we're going to get sandwiched between these two robots, but we just jump up here and go around. Here we're actually going to be jumping a little early in order to save just a couple frames. Missed the timing there, so I ended up hitting the wall and not actually saving too much time, or not actually saving any time, but I didn't lose any time either, so it's not that bad. Free trick to save a couple frames. Now they start making the distance between the kissy robots a little shorter, and these little, like, ghost ground guys are just the absolute worst. They come up at a random height and shoot at a random time, so they're pretty annoying to handle, especially in a casual playthrough. Here we're hoping this gate's up, but unfortunately it's closed. You can save a little bit of time if you just happen to make a cycle. And all of the cycles in here use global timers and frame rules, so it's mostly random. Technically, if I remember correctly, if you theoretically got here on the same frame every time, you'd have the same patterns every time, but I'm pretty sure that's not humanly possible. That was silly. So what I was trying to do there is count the tongues. I moved just a few frames early. This is the last room, and it's a super long one as well. But in order to skip some cycles here, you want to move to 3. You want to move as soon as possible. Oh no! That's really bad. You want to move as soon as possible. Which I'm getting a little over eager here. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. See, it's very, very tight. And hopefully we don't get screwed over. There we go. Whew. That last section is always pretty tough. He's back. And that's it for the Run Run Roddy Top section. Unfortunately, we lost about a minute on that last screen. Which is pretty unfortunate, but
Just in time.
it happens. And as soon as we drop her off, we find out she wasn't actually wounded after all, and she was just messing with us. Here we get a ride from Poe, who helps us get through the forest. And what we need to do is we need to bring that squid oil from earlier in order to go back through to the other side. Because if you go up through where the Run Run Roddy Top section starts, Shantae basically refuses to go through that whole forest thing again. So in order to get back through to where the dungeon is, we need to fix this carriage. And we get the shriveled thing, which is what we need in order to open up the next dungeon. Also, that "it smells" dialogue is one of the few dialogues in the game that isn't an item get that you can't pause through. They really want you to know that it smells. So we're going to use that shriveled thing and head into the next stage. There we go. So we're going to open this up with a dash. And this is going to be where we get another extra key. So again, dashing through here. Hopefully we get some super pipe balls from some of these skeletons. There we go, we got at least one, that's good. We're going to need 5 super pipe balls between here and the end. We've already purchased one of them. And we're actually going to be purchasing the second one coming up. But any extra super pipe balls we can get is going to help our money later on. And we're going to use one of these pike balls to take out this boss. Oh no, that's bad. Unfortunately, that boss is that bounce is going to mean this is going to take an extra cycle. Unfortunately, we didn't get any items from her, which ideally we would get a Super Monster Milk or a Super Pike Ball. It's getting those extra drops is actually one of the reasons to do this particular route. And we're going to get this other key as well. So this is another one that we have to get. There we go. Okay. This room's pretty fun. You're supposed to use your hat, which is the item of this dungeon, in order to go up this little wind bit. Well, we're able to cut down. Ooh, that's bad. We're able to cut down the time significantly. 1, 2, 3. By using the cannons instead. And unfortunately, these spikes are one-hit kills. 2. Excellent. Down. Alright, so we're going to use one of those super pike balls, the super pike ball that we fought earlier in the game for this boss. Probably should have gotten some of those hearts now that I'm looking at it. Hopefully we don't end up using our auto potion. We want to try to get the auto potion all the way through to the end of the game and use it on the final boss. I'm going to be playing this a little safer here. Usually you do a bunch of damage boosting in order to get some extra cannon attacks in. But I'm going to be playing this ultra safe and letting my Super Pike Ball do most of the work. Oh boy. Oh boy. Come on. There we go. We got her. So wasting a little bit of time playing it safe, but not a terrible fight all in all. Picking up another map and heading to the next island. So you might have noticed when I used the Super Pike Ball that I made sure that the Super Pirate Flare was equipped. That's basically some menu optimization, since we're able to use the items from the without going into a menu by mashing the bumper key, or it's just a really good idea to save the menu and mouse over the next thing that you're going to need to use, which tends to be a Pirate Flare after a boss. Most bosses you equip what resources you have so that we can kill it a little faster, and then mouse over the Pirate Flare for the exit. All these cactuses drop two things that we really need. They drop bubble shields. There we go. They drop bubble shields and they drop monster milks. We're going to need, from this point on, we're going to need 4 Pike Balls or Super Pike Balls and 4 Monster Milks or Super Monster Milks. So any extra Monster Milks or Super Pike Balls that we get from drops, the better. Like, the more we get, the better. And that just means we're not going to have to purchase it later. For marathon safety, I'm going to be grabbing some extra ones. Or getting some extra money just in case. Here we're actually starting one of the first revisit sections that I was referring to. We got those X-ray spectacles. We got those X-ray spectacles, and they're going to allow us to look into these sarcophagi, getting some extra money, hitting the wall there. And the sarcophagi are going to give us a password in order to get to the next section of the game. We're actually doing this slightly out of the intended order. You're supposed to go back to town first and find out about the sarcophagi, but since we already know where that one is, we just grab it on the way. So with some slight overworld optimization. Oh, that was weird. We almost got stuck there. So this is where the reveal is supposed to be. This is where you're supposed to get the first one. Also, Sky's new boyfriend, Joe, is dead. Alright, next up is our second shopping trip. This is where this shopping trip kind of varies from runner to runner. At the very least, you need 3 Pirate Flares. For my route, I get 3 Pirate Flares, 1 Super Pike Ball, and 1 Super Monster Milk for the next boss. So I always make sure to have at least 195 gold by this point. Okay, we got a Monster Milk, that's good. That sets us up for at least the next boss. So we have enough resources to at least make it through. Okay, no supers in there. We're going to attack as we go through that chest in order to get it to spawn sooner. Hoping for some more supers on the way back here. Okay, so we're pretty light on Super Pike Balls right now. Now we need those 3 sketches to get this password, Gator Lionfish, which is random every time. Gator Lionfish. Gator Lionfish. I'm also really bad at remembering Gator Lionfish, this password, for the brief amount of time Gator Lionfish that you need to remember it for. Gator Lionfish. Gator... Nope. Lions after birds. Lionfish. There we go. It's kind of funny. If I start talking about anything else, I tend to forget the password. You can always check your inventory to see what the password is, but it's always a time loss having to do that. So here, once we get into the Desert Palace, we approach that old man, and he basically thinks that we're the princess. So he puts us in our room, or the princess's room, or something. But we don't want to be here, so we need to sneak out through this little stealth section. The stealth section is actually pretty fun and has some decent cycle breaks and skips. We're trying to not get spotted by any of these guards in any of these rooms coming up. This is also where we're going to use those extra keys. Nice. So here we actually need 3 keys, and currently we have those 2 extra keys, as well as... There we go. Thought I was a little slow. But yeah, so you jump over that first guard. You can also jump over this guard. It's a little less marathon safe. So we have those extra keys that we got and picked up in various places, and this is where we're going to need to use them. In this section, Sky, Risky, and Roddy Tops have all also been confused as the princess. So we need to use those 3 keys in order to free them. So this level is actually supposed to be super expansive, and you find all sorts of stuff. It's actually a really interesting stage, but we skip most of it. There's also a door and switch that you can open up, so you don't have to go through that starting stealth section every time. So I actually really like this. It's also pretty interesting that they strip you of all of your powers as well. I always thought that was interesting. But really good Desert Palace, actually. Whoops. And this is the part where that giant statue is the princess, and that right there is the princess, so this man has very bad eyesight. But for our troubles, we get the golden pickaxe. And the golden pickaxe we're actually going to use in order to progress through this area right here. There's also a little quirk about this particular... oh, whoops, I forgot this one there. This particular victory fanfare. You can actually go into your menu and get a little evaluation of resources for free. So we have... We're really short on resources right now. So hopefully some of the Scorpion Girl kills that we get will help alleviate that. So some runners actually kill all the Scorpion Girls. I only kill this one. There's 2 more that you have to kill in order to progress through the next stage. Grabbing some more money. And we're also hoping to get some bubble shields and monster milks from these little cactuses as well. There's a few more that we need to kill before the end of the stage. Whoops, too many. There we go. Nice. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is really bad, actually. Okay, we got him. Nice. Pike Ball. Super Monster Milk. Okay, so we have a decent amount of resources. We're still slightly short from what we need for the rest of the game, but we're in a good spot. Oh no! Whoops. An unfortunate mistake. It's actually possible to make it through there in just one cycle, but it's not the most marathon safe thing ever. Okay, so we have all of the Super Pike Balls that we need for the rest of the game, and we are one Monster Milk short. So this is Squid Baron. This guy's actually can be kind of tough. We're trying to beat some cycles here, where there's a particular form that we want him to be in at the start of the second phase. There we go, and we got it. So at the start of this next phase, we're going to break him out of the armor, and he's immediately going to start fighting food, because he always shifts between 3 different attacks. There's the charging back and forth, there's the jumping up and down, and then there's eating food. And he always cycles between. So we want to start this second phase with him eating food, so that we can just wail on him. And since we purchase full resources for this fight, we're able to just destroy him. And he rewards us with the map for the next island.
Oh yeah.
And we use the pirate flare that we moused over. And hand in the map. But we are not going to go to Mudbog Island immediately this time. We're actually going to hand in that fossil that we picked up earlier in the run. So Bolo moves over here. And we give him the fossil and the X-ray glasses that we got from Squid Baron. And he combines those two things / looks inside the fossil to get this death mask. Now, the death mask is actually what we need in order to progress through Mudbog Island. Otherwise, we just get to a particular NPC on the island and just be unable to continue. So you want to make sure to get the death mask before you come here. Otherwise, it's pretty bad.
Let's go.
Now, this section is pretty tight. You want to be real careful not to jump too much, because it's really easy to hit your head on the ceiling. And if you hit on the ceiling, you're basically... That was close. Getting our dash back. Hey, not too bad. So this character right here, you just straight up cannot progress past if you don't have the death mask. So you really don't want to forget it. And starting this next stage with a dash. You don't want to jump here, because that's basically death. But here we're going to try to get through, there we go, and keep our dash speed so we can just keep going. And here we're looking for 3 coins, red, green, and blue. And we're going to use these in order to progress with some gamblers. And again, this is another instance of using the cannon, because the cannon's actually the last upgrade you're supposed to get. But we use the cannon in order to go through this shortcut, which is supposed to be where you exit. Now here we're going to try to dash late. Ah, we missed it. So what we're trying to do there's a couple more coming up, so we can try to get it again. But you want to actually dash through the screen transition, because you can't dash. Oh boy, that was risky. Let's go. And jump it over. So you can kind of there's some rooms that you cannot dash through, and that's one of them. So what we do in order to get around that is we essentially load the next room with the ability to dash. Like with the blue highlight. Oh, shoot. Little off there. And that allows us to get around the invisible wall, stopping our dash, and able to dash it. Getting some extra money here for safety. I think it's going to be extra, but not actually sure. There are certainly ways to use extra money at the end of the game. So now that we have all the coins, we're going to talk to these gamblers, and we're going to play heads or tails with all of them. Of course, since this is a speedrun, we just mash through heads. And you might think, oh man, you have to beat all three of them? But even if you lose... There we go. That was actually really lucky. Even if you lose... Once you lose 3 times, you're able to just instantly win. So it's not too bad. It's a little RNG heavy, but it's not like you can lose a whole minute or anything to the RNG there. It's not actually that bad. Now we're going to... We did all of that in order to hand in this hopeful flame. And the final result of that is talking to this mysterious stranger and getting the manly musk. So the creature living within the next stage wants challengers to fight, and when you show them the manly musk, he accepts our challenge. And we're heading into the next stage. Let's go. So here we want to kill as few enemies as possible, because every time you kill an enemy... Nice. Every time you kill an enemy, it pauses the screen. So a lot of this stage is killing as little as possible. Again, doing shuffles in order to skip a lot of the stage. Go with Monster Mail Super Pipe Ball. So it looks like our resources are pretty good. The next shopping trip we'll need to buy 2 bubble shields and a monster milk, but otherwise we're in a good spot. I always forget where that one spawns. There we go. Get wrecked! So the dragon actually spawns in the same spots every time. So it's pretty easy to just know where he's going to be. And once you hit him with a strong hair attack, you're able to knock him down and just go to town. That fight's actually completely different casually, because usually you don't have the cannon there. Right. And now we head to Frostbite Island.
Oh yeah.
We're getting real close to the end, but first, we've got to do some fetch quests. So in order to get into the next level, the Ammo Baron actually asks for 3 things. Let's see if we can get this. Delayed dash. There we go, we got one. Nice. The Ammo Baron asks for 3 things. We need to get a targeting module, and we need to find 2 of his employees. One of his employees is Joe. Joe just died. But that lost soul that we just found is actually Joe's soul. But first we need to pick up the targeting module, which is conveniently on the island that we just got the map for.
Let's go.
Now I'm going to kill some of these wolves, just on the off chance that they might drop a Super Monster Milk or a Super Pike Ball. Specifically the Super Monster Milk that we need. But probably not going to kill too many. Yeah, I think I'll call it there. And avoid the rest of them. Or not. I'm used to being low on resources and just killing a bunch of the wolves here. But I'm really more likely to do that if I'm low on both Super Pike Balls and Super Monster Milks. Because they have a decent chance to drop one or the other. But if you're only looking for one, then that significantly reduces the chances. There we go. So this stage is really where the cannon gets a workout. So there's a lot of stuff that we skip because we have the cannon here. Like this entire screen. Another instance of delayed dash. Uh-oh. Okay, we're good. Nice. So you're supposed to be using your hat here. But why use a hat when you can have a cannon? We're going to be soaring over all these guys. There's a wind gust here keeping you from falling too far low to the ground. Well, this is actually one of my favorite rooms. It's pretty crazy. It's really fun casually, too. Oh, so I used one cannon there on accident. You actually don't need to use any. But we're going right here. Excellent. You can still make the jump with two, but it's much tighter. Heading over here. Here we go. And that's it for the stage. Alright, next step, we're going to revive Joe, or at least get Joe's soul back. In order to do that, we need to take the soul that we found and bring it back to some people who know about the dead, which is Roddy Tops and her brothers. Another quick little dash to head over here. Oops. There we go. And we're in. And in return, we get Spirited Joe. Now, there's similar to the 100 gold that we got earlier, there's actually a hidden thing where you hand in the death mask, and you get a pirate flare in return. That actually really helps us out, because that allows us to teleport back for free without having to worry about spending the extra money. And now we head back to town for our last shopping trip. So, brief evaluation of resources here. We need monster milk and bubble shields. First things first, 2 flares. Okay, yeah, just enough. And double check. Yeah, we should be good. Now we don't need any resources for the rest of the game. Now we just get to use them. And again, similar to the cannon pausing, since we don't actually, sorry, not the cannon pausing, dash pausing. Since we don't actually need to kill any of these guys, we want to jump over everything and avoid as many as possible. So early on, we got an enchanted blade, which I kind of forgot to mention in the desert. That's in order to find Branson right here in order to get those 2 pirates.
Flare activated.
Back to the ammo bear. So a lot of this section is kind of confusing when you're doing it not casually. And then in here we hand in the soul of Joe to get Joe back, or spirit of Joe. Sorry, not soul of Joe, spirit of Joe. we just chit-chat with Ammo Baron. We've got everything we need. Now, they're trying to fire on the palace, but because of the bad targeting module, they end up opening up the next stage. Heading down here so we can get just a little bit of dash. And now we head over. So second to last level coming up. If we had more money, we would have been able to buy some potions for a bunch of animation skips in here. But we actually have some extra food that we can use for that. Again, dashing and taking advantage of the cannon that we're not supposed to have yet. Though you do get the cannon in this stage, there's a lot of stuff that we do with the cannon before we're supposed to have it, and taking advantage of risky shuffles that allow us to do some pretty cool stuff in this stage. Ah, I missed the last one, unfortunately. And now we just dash over to the boss. And hoping to not get hit by that ice block. Wow, that was really close. So this boss is also pretty heavy on RNG. We're trying to hit 3 switches on his back, and once all of them are green, it opens up his weak point. And unfortunately, you have to hit him in order as well. Oh no! There we go. And now we unload all our resources. Oh boy. Okay, not the best positioning, unfortunately. Okay, nice. Oh, I missed it again. So I think this is going to be 3 cycles. Yeah, not quite going to kill him fast enough. Okay, got lucked out there. I think he's only a few hits from dead, too. There we go. So not the best fight, unfortunately. A lot of that came down to slightly mispositioning myself, so not getting the super pike balls to fully take effect. But it's not worth adjusting yourself. It's not worth stopping to attack to adjust yourself on the ice. Yeah, I didn't think so. Just glad I realized that I forgot to pirate flare there, because using your last super pike ball when you can't afford it is pretty bad. So now we have the grave map. So this whole game we've been trying to find the hidden grave of the Pirate Master, so that we can defeat him. Unfortunately, it's not going to go quite as risky paths. Oh, this actually loses time, but I like doing that dash. It looks really cool. So here we awaken the Pirate Master, and unfortunately, he's a bit more than Risky can contend with. This is the part where Risky tells us to get all of the dark magic in the game. But since this is any percent, and we don't want to do that, we're just going to head straight to the palace and kill that Pirate Master. Gotta be real careful here to not pick up the heart containers, or the heart squids. hitting some of those enemies because we need to power through all those blocks. So we want to speed that process up just a little bit. Now, next up is the Palace skip. So what we're going to be doing is some very, very well-timed cannon shots and uses of the hat in order to skip these really long, elaborate levels. Oh, whoops. Missed one. Nice, and we got them all. Fantastic. Now we just need to seal the deal.
Power up! Super pipe ball!
So I'm going to be jumping a lot while attacking here. That's because the jumps actually cancel your animation. It allows you to attack a little faster. Unfortunately, we're getting really, really unlucky positioning here. We want to get one extra hit so that we can use the auto potion. Get some extra hits in there. And hopefully... Got him! Nice! It was a little bit closer than I would have liked with those lasers, but we got there. 56:23, respectable marathon time. And that's it. We kill the Pirate Master. Unfortunately, we do not save the day. This scene is literally Risky taking her weapons back and going off to fight the Pirate Master to our death because we didn't listen to her. But hey, it's any percent. We did it faster. So thank you all for watching. This has been Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, any percent pirate mode, no out of bounds. One quick thing that we always like to check at the end of the run too is we submit with real-time and in-game time. So let's see what our in-game time was. Probably about a 54 or a high 53. This game is such good music. The end. I need 52:39, not bad. So, thank you all for watching.